This is not going to be a silent movie. A silent episode. Trans red. There's a few things. I just got a package from Amazon that I will discuss because I'm going to be doing some updates and or trying to, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll make my life easier when it comes to setting up and taking down the layout, as well as adding more functionality. But we'll see. It's kind of a shot in the dark, but it was a $13 shot in the dark, so I'm not worried about swinging a miss here. I did some woodworking today. Sandy and I took the morning to clean the garage because it hasn't really been done since we built the shelves last year and redid the whole garage. And so things just got thrown in there. And so now we cleaned it up and we've took a lot of stuff to Value Village, which is a good thing. We are severely downsizing. But during that, I found the 2 totes that I brought with me to Bricks in the Six last year for stuff I wanted to sell. So now I'm going to reorganize the 2 totes, and get everything in baggies and maybe do an inventory and blah, blah, blah. So we'll see about that. We'll see. I mean, Bricks in the Six is like half a year away. Brickomania is coming up in August. So June, July, August, so 2.5 months from now, I will be in Brickomania. Again, fingers crossed. And I don't know if I'm going to bring stuff to sell. I will have to see. It's going to be hopefully combined with a business trip. And I might have too much in the car as it is. So there's that. So August 15th, by the way, Brickomania, I will be there, hopefully. I'd love to see anybody else. The layout will be there. Now, I am coming down to, I enjoyed Anime North, and I enjoyed the last Bricks in the Six where I was out in the foyer where they didn't turn off the lights. So I'm actually, and the lighting is so, don't get me wrong, I adore the lighting and the layout. I put a lot of effort into it over many years, and it has worked 95% sometimes. It's never been 100, 95%. But the sheer overhead of connecting everything together and then trying to get it to work has, every single time that I did it, has been, I'm not saying it's draining. It's part. When I set up the layout without the lighting, the lighting takes over an hour during the setup process to make sure it's working. Now, at Anime North, there were lights because, of course, I need the sensors on. And then for the sensors, I need a light to shine into the sensors. And so the rocket launch platform was lit up. So I will talk about this a little bit. What I bought today, or I got from Amazon today, is going to be, instead of, because I think Rob Hendricks has discontinued the 9-volt to Life Lights adapters. I have a bunch there. Actually, I should put that up for a sec to see. I think they're in here. I hope they're in here. I'm gonna put these aside because this is my next thing. It might be in here. I have, I believe, at least one in the layout right now. That's what I'm using to light up the gantry of the rocket launch platform, because that's where the lights are that shine into the sensors for the monorail. But there's one, there's two, there is, I know I have more. Okay, there's only 2 in here, which is kind of a shame. So this is the 9-volt to 3-volt converter. You put the 9-volt electric brick on here, and the life lights into there. So yeah, I have these guys. This is also Rob Hendricks life lights. These guys were, I think, no, they're not even, but they were in the observation deck. They worked nicely. What I did, and it's got an IR, so you can control it via IR. What I did is I just replaced them with regular life lights. I got these adapters, like thankfully, these things are awesome. Lots of these adapters. So you can take one line and put 2 lights off it, or daisy chain them, which is what I do a lot. So I got 1, 2, which I keep on meaning to do 3. The last time I had some of these on, they stopped working. 4, 5 Life Lights advanced kits with the computer control, with the older one and the newer one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 basic kits without programmability. So those are still in here. I have packets. I asked Rob for a whole bunch of lights one time, and I'm down to those because I do break them. I do break them once in a while. They stop working. You can see like the wires broken on this guy. That's me. That's not Rob. This is also an 120 to Life Lights adapter. I'm not sure why this one's in here. So I thought I used them all in the layout. For me to fix the Life Lights right now is a complete overhaul, basically. It should be anyway, to clean them all up and to get them all working properly. These are all my bags of old used Life Lights that I keep for the ends and stuff, and whatever. So and again, if you remember, I made, I don't know what I'm working with in here. Oh, this is the old adapter, 9 volt to 120 volt to the thing. Not really. So I got the battery boxes, because Rob sent battery box with everyone. I made my lighting kind of thing for the layout. I also at one point was buying these are the connectors for my towers, so they can, go all the way up. But put those back in there. So there's this is for the other thing. Oh, it's in here. This is another thing. These are 12 volt LEDs, and they are stupid bright. This is what I made my flashlight out of. Do I say flashlight in here? Yes, I do. I highly doubt that it's going to turn on. This is Dave's custom made dive light. It's waterproof. No, but I have one in the garage that still turns on. I'm afraid to take that one apart because you can see the batteries are leaking. So I just leave it together. It's a science experiment now. This was a long time ago a reed sensor. So in this little tiny vacuum tube, there's two metal reeds that if a magnet comes near them, they split apart. So I use this in my train layouts. Actually, this one might actually work, because it's got that end on it, to know where the train was. So the train would stop by using RCX to power the rails, and when the train went over here, because the train has magnets connecting all the trains, the cars together, the reed sensor would sense it. So you just put this under the track, and it was pretty good. Like you could have it like 2 or 3 bricks away, and the reed sensor would still go off when a train went overhead. And this is for the crossing gates. I made a motorized crossing gate to come down. The wigwags is what we call them. And so that worked reasonably well. I can't believe I just found that in here. This was my valiant attempt. I'll take this thing out of the bag. Again, I wasn't going to talk about any of this. So I bought from a hobby shop. This is a slot car pickup for whatever slot cars they were selling at the time. And you can see it's got the little thing in here that keeps the slot. That's why this thing goes into the slot. And then these are the power pickups on each side of the slot. And so this is what I was using. This braided wire is what I was using. And I soldered it to wires to go for the monorail. And I was originally trying to, because you can see these little springs here. Let me see if I can see this little tiny spring here. Between my finger. They're very soft springs, which is what I wanted, because what I wanted is, instead of using the braided wire as a pickup, I bought a piece of brass, 3/16 wide by like like a tenth of a millimeter thick. So it wasn't tape, but it's really thin stuff that they would use for whatever crafts. And I wanted to make a little plate that was spring loaded, so it would always push down onto the metal tape on the track. I can never get a good spring that was soft enough to be compressible because again, the tolerances of monorails and strong enough to do so. So I just kind of gave up on that. But I was thinking about it the other day to see if I could, pontificate and come up with an idea. Because again, what I wanted to do, do I have a monorail near me? I do not have a monorail bogey near me right now. Let's just grab this one. There we go. So I'll grab this guy. Let's use them on here. So you can see these little tiny rectangles. So I wanted the spring to fit in there. Let's see if I can get this thing off. This thing's already screwed up. There we go. I wanted the spring to fit in that little rectangle, which this one does. But this one's too hard. It doesn't compress enough to go below that thing. So, maybe that's not bad. There it is. And then put the metal plate on top of that or below that. It depends on which way the thing's going. And then the spring would just keep it. That's good. Just drop it so you lose the spring. Okay, didn't lose the spring. But trying to source springs like that, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Because what I would do is I would run the wire through the spring, so the spring doesn't have to be attached to anything. So I would run a wire through the spring, and I would solder the wire to the middle of a maybe 5 millimeter by 5 millimeter plate of brass, kind of bend up the corners a little bit, the edges of it, so it's kind of like rounded at the bottom, and it would just float there, and the spring would just keep on pushing it down. That's what I wanted to do. That would get rid of the braided copper wire pickups. And again, even using braided copper wire pickups, I would try to solder the braided wire to the actual wire coming back to the motor. The issue with braided wire, and if you're in IT or kind of electronics at all, you remember back in the day, you would have, so I can find it because I just saw it right here. You would have braided wire like this, okay? And then you would put this on your circuit board and you would put your soldering iron on top of this thing, and this thing would absorb the solder that was on your circuit board to get rid of the solder. That's what this stuff does. And this stuff is, as you can see, braided wire. So when you try to solder braided wire to another regular wire, the braided wire gets solidified because it just sucks up the solder. And so all of a sudden this is a rigid piece now and not flexible. So I was clamping off the rest of it, and I was just trying to solder on top of that. It helped a little bit, but it was it's very difficult to solder braided wire to wire whilst maintaining the flexibility of braided wire. I'm not sure I got this piece. It's obviously a piece I cannot use because look how wide that is. That does not work in this thing because it would be like half the bogey. So I don't do that. But so I had and have ideas to fix the power pickups, and this is, I think, came out of a Bic pen or something like that. It's far too taut, far too much pressure, far too much whatever to use, and these guys are far too flimsy to use. So it's an issue. And right now, just putting the wire as pickups seems to be fine. I am running low. I have to make some more 9-volt wire connectors with just exposed wire in the end and then pull out like a centimeter at a time as I need it, because they do break after a while. Just regular wire breaks off a lot faster than the braided wire does from these things. So, but I keep trying, and to me that's the critical part for the layout, is the movement, not the lighting. So I do focus on the movement over the lighting. I haven't cleaned up the lighting in a while. There's been some major overhauls of the layout that I've done over the years, where I spent months just rebuilding all buildings with the wiring to get the lights nice. But I haven't done it in a long time, and it shows. The last time I had the whole thing lit up, well, even Brickomania and Bricks in the Six, they were in a spot where the lights weren't turned off. So it does help with the interior of the building. So I might just focus on getting the interior of the buildings lit up, because even at Anime North, you can't see inside the buildings because, of course, there's no lights and it's dark inside the building. So that's what my 9-volt to 3-volt converters that I just got from Amazon are going to help me with, because I can just connect them to an RCX or a train controller and light them up that way, instead of having the entire power bank that I have there and breaking Sandy's back by trying to carry it upstairs the other day. So there are plans. There's always plans afoot, shall we say, on the future status of the layout. So it's not like it's a static display. I keep on working on it, even if it's just in my head. I keep on working on it, trying to come up with better ideas to set it up, take it down, and interactive with the audience. But I do focus on not just the nice looking details, but also the movement details, and trying to come up with a way of making that better, because it does get a little annoying when the trains stop. That's what I should work on right now. Sorry, thank you for reminding me. I'm gonna go work on, instead of doing this right now, I'm gonna put this aside and I'm gonna go grab something. Hold on. Let me just put this right here. Kaboom. Get rid of that. I'm not gonna do that right now. I was gonna do this, but I'm not gonna do this right now. So this is what we have. This is my bin of 9-volt straight rails. And as you can see, it is just not the biggest collection of 9-volt straight rails, but it's enough for me. So I have a box full of curved rails and switches over there. Switches are a completely different thing for me, as most people who know me back in the day know that I spent a lot of time modifying switches. Again, if you don't like modified Lego, why are you here? But I think this is my bin of non-modified. I got a bunch of these. Yay! Do I have any modifieds in here? I don't see anything right now. I know that, well, maybe I'll grab this other bin just to make sure. So I'm gonna grab that bin. Let's put this bin aside for now. This is just strict. Get this stuff reorganized. Sandy has said to me that I really do have to clean up this Lego room, and I agree with her. I really do have to clean up this Lego room. It is a disaster right now. Let's grab that one. Let's grab that one. And there's one modified straight. I am trying to find. I don't know where they are. Here? What? Modified. Oh, I forgot all the stuff I used to modify. There we go. And that's the one I'm looking for. And that's what I'm looking for. So these are my modified. And I also have, and a lot of people don't believe me when I say that. Let's see. No, that's not it. That's whatever. But I have, where are they? I think I might have already given them away. I had dark Belay 9-volt rails. Not too many, and I don't see them now. But at one point I did have dark Belay 9-volt rails, because for a minute there was dark Belay 9-volt rails. But those, I only have dark Belay here. That's it. That's all. As far as I know, right, we're looking at, this is the entire extent of the non-powered rails that I have, which is fine, because I don't care. I'd rather not have them. Get this piece way out here. Okay, so put those aside, that aside. So this is a half rail that I made, and this is not necessarily a quarter rail. I'll go into that in a sec because you can see it's like more of a rhombus, not a rectangle. Another half rail I made. This one is a shorter rail than the standard because I need it to be that way. It's 2 studs shorter. And then this one is 2 studs longer than a regular rail, or 4 studs longer because that's what I needed. Yes, I cheated a little bit. That's fine. So I got a couple of half rails, and then I made half curves, and I'll show you why right now. Let's see, I put all these things together. So this is what I did with my switches. This is my favorite, and of course they're broken now because they just sit in the box. So this is what I did with my switches, right there. Now, I did this because I wanted the curve to be a nice curve instead of that jiggy jog into a curve. So this is what the Lego company should have done day one for their switches. I don't know why they didn't. There's no justification besides making it cheaper, but doing this would have been a lot smarter, because if you add this piece and you add this quarter piece here, right, to have it like that. Let's see, add it right there. If you can, there we go. It's been a while. Okay, so now this is a Y, and this is 2 curves right there. This is 2 curves, right? And then you put this one here, and then you got a 90 degrees going that way. But the other thing you can do, take that off. Again, it's broken already. And I think it's this piece. They're contrary pieces. Maybe it's this one. There we go. Oh, wow. This has been forever and a day. Now you have the original switch. You have the original switch that came out with. So you put this little rhombus in here, and you put that half curve there, and now you have the original switch. So this is what they sold, right? But if you do it my way with these 3 extra pieces, this is bad. After resolder those, I'm never going to use this switch again. Doesn't matter. If you do this, it gives you a lot more opportunity to do cooler layouts. Now, there are third-party companies that make even way better switches than this one, but they're not 9 volt. Now, you can convert all the new switches to 9 volt just by putting copper tape on them, or brass tape like I do with the monorail track. You can do that. I've seen people do that, and it works. So you can convert the new track that is not 9 volt to 9 volt if you want to. I've never done it. I've seen it done. Now, I'm just happy I got these old switches, but I am missing a whole box of switches. I have no idea. I don't remember giving them to anybody. I used to have like dozens of switches that I played with back in the day. But yeah, those are the modifications I made on the 9 volt track. And they even have this one end here that broke off something. So it is what it is. I thought these were cool enough as they were, but you're not converting these to 9 volt at all. So there's that. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Put that over here. Actually, yeah, let's pack it up. Pack it up. Put it back on the shelf. It's just in our way, because we're gonna be doing some work. Hardware mode. But I seem to be missing, and I'm not sure where they are. Maybe they're at the bottom of that box. Not that I really care. Oh, I forgot to put those in there. I'm going to solder some wires to this thing. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. Because it was the actual 9 volt connector to the rails that was faulty at my last show. And I said, I'm not going to play with it anymore. If I solder wires directly here, it cannot be the connector anymore. And so I'm going to work on that for a second, or 2, or 5. And I have to find this first, and I have to get this second. Oh my goodness, this is where, again, come on, come on, puppy. There we go. My bin of electronics is getting to be very, 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 very messy. So I'm gonna put that there. I have all this extra wire here. The good stuff. The good stuff. Nothing but the good stuff here. Oh, that happened. Agent USA. Light is on, so there's not to find solder. Okay. You think I'd have all this in one bin? I'm gonna bring this out just because I might need it. Magnets. The stuff I have in here. Let me just put this over here. The stuff I have in here just literally astounds me that I don't do more cleaning up. My friend years ago sent me a whole bunch of springs because I was trying to do something, and he was very sweet and kind, and he sent me a whole bunch of springs, and I tried a lot of these springs and only one or two of them worked, but I appreciate the efforts. Just more of the same wire, and these are the brass pieces I'm talking about. Number 8240.32 times quarter inch, 0.81 millimeters by 6.35 millimeters. So very, very thin strips, and you can bend them and Dremel them to however you want them to work. And where's my solder? I have a big bin of parts and pieces. There we go. Yay! There we go. Done. I might have to take it. I can't take a trip to Radio Shack anymore because Radio Shack doesn't exist anymore. So, not too many people, not too many places do electronics anymore. I don't think you can get it from Best Buy or the Source, but so let me see which wire I want to use. Not that one. That one's too tough. This one is okay, and I will worry about putting the other end on later. Let me just. I think I'm gonna need my wire strippers, which I should have pulled out. And get my Gruberman, my fake Gruberman out, and. I don't think I have wire. Oh, yeah, I do have my wire strippers. Wire strippers. That shouldn't be in there. That's if I ever clean this up. I'll bring my multimeter out, even though I don't need it right now. So I think that's good enough. Solder. Anyway, oh, there's a pair of scissors up there. Okay. So I think I got enough mess here to do what I need to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing is just a waste of time. Get this thing going. You can see me. This thing I got at a 5 and dime store. I can't remember. It was like a million years ago. Is it going to help? I don't know. I'm just going to hold it here. That just so I can hold it and not have two hands. So what I did at the show is I got the ends here. Not one lesson. Oh, I want the other end. Figures. I do want the wire to come through that little notch in the bottom of these rails, because that's where the wire flows. Where the wire flows. And I'm gonna do it like that. Twist that. So this is again impromptu. I wasn't planning on doing this right now. And maybe I won't even do it on here because it's just getting in my way. Put that aside for now. So the wire, I'll do the long one first. It'll be on this side. So what I did at the show is I brought the wire out through the little hole inside there and on the outside of the track. So like you can see it there on the outside. the track, and then I put it along the side of the track like that, because the wheels don't hit the outside. So, so what I might do is just take this thing off. There's the shirt dropping on the floor. Wow. The older I get, the more butterfingers I get, by the way. I'm dropping stuff. So I'm going to put that there. And I'm going to clamp that off so it stays, hopefully, reasonably. So there's the wire on the outside of the track. And then what I might do, what I just might do, put that in this clippy so I can use both hands. There we go, because I want to hold that down. Get the solder ready. I think the soldering iron's getting nice and heated up and hopefully not melting the wire that's touching it. Okay, when I was a kid, I actually touched a soldering iron. I had a wood burning set too, and I burnt myself in that too. I am a klutz. I've always said I'm a klutz. I will always be a klutz. I don't mind being a klutz, but I have been injured by my klutziness in the past. But as we say on Earth, c'est la vie. There we go. I'm gonna pull this thing out. The heat rises. I do need to buy a new soldering iron. This thing is pretty old, pretty chintzy and whatever, but it still does the job. So I'm gonna get the wire covered in solder first. So that's on, and then I'm gonna press down. Maybe I will use these things to press that down and press it into the side of the track. And hopefully it takes. I should probably sand it to the side of the track first, but no, it's taken. Yeah, that was a waste of time, wasn't it? That was an utter waste of time. See? Chintzy. Like I can't even remember why I bought this little gizmo to hold stuff, because it's just crap. I actually built a Lego one once, did a lot better job, because Lego always wins in the end. So that is there. Now it's soldered to the edge of the track. Nice. There's nothing on the top of the track. Nice. Then I'm gonna do this side, and I might cut the wire to length. I don't know yet, because that does have to come up through here. And what I might do is I might make 2 of these, because if one breaks in storage, then I'm pooched. But that is a thing for another time. But right now I'm just gonna cut the wire here to be that long. Yep. Pull it back out. Get the wire strippers, the mighty wire strippers, and wire strip that much. And I don't know why I have Barbara Eden and I Dream of Jeannie going through my head right now. I just have literally no idea why. That was a great show. I really did enjoy that show growing up as a kid. I Dream of Jeannie was that's one of those shows that you're a kid and you don't understand why it's great. But I also do know that when I got older, the stories are actually pretty good. It was a fun show. Barbara Eden made that show fun. Like Larry Hagman was, very good. And his partner, I can't remember the guy's name. He was in a whole bunch of stuff back in the 60s and 70s. He was okay. But Barbara Eden was wonderful. She was a joy to just listen to. And the way she was like all cutesy, and she was awesome. But she was also awesome outside the Genie costume too. She did a show called Harper Valley PTA based on the song. I'm not sure. I really enjoyed that show. I thought that show was like top notch. I remember watching it. I think it was the late 70s, early 80s. I could be wrong. It could be like later, but I enjoyed that. She was if I remember correctly, she was either a single mom trying to make it on her own, or whatever. But it was a good show. I don't remember too much of it because it was like a long time ago, but I remember it being good. I remember being impressed with her. It's almost like she wasn't just a cute bombshell that dressed in a skimpy costume on TV for a long time. She was actually, there was some really good acting chops there, as they say. So impressed enough to impress me, obviously. It's sad that Loretta Swit passed away yesterday, because one of the best shows ever in the history of television is MASH, but I had no idea that she had, I mean, I knew she had a career both before and after MASH, but she had a very good career that I was too young to watch. So the fact that she's now gone, it's basically our generation is losing a lot of people these days, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to be like that for a long time, which is part of what happens in the world. You know, I still remember when George Burns passed away and Bob Hope passed away, but those were a generation before. But now we're getting to the people that we grew up with as kids, right? We're getting there now, because 58 and stuff, and all those actors I remember as a kid. Like I think they're all gone from Gilligan's Island. I mean, maybe I think Don Wells passed away, which was, you know, whatever. It's bad because again we grew up in Gilligan's Island. I think Russell is still alive, but I could be wrong on that. The professor might still be alive, but everybody else is gone. Maybe Tina Louise is still alive. I don't know. But you know, and then, you know, we grew up in these shows, and you expect these people are the same age that you watched them on television with all the reruns for 20 years. No, they got old. So it is what it is, and you can't change that. Which again, why would you want to, really? Because, you know, life is about, you know, going old and taking care of whatever and blah blah blah. Am I gonna leave it this long? There's a nice length on it. There's a very nice length on it, but I think that's just too long. But I am going to get my multimeter out. Maybe I'll cut it. I'm just eyeballing it now. So how long do I want it? The thing is, you put a 9-volt connector on the back of it, so in the end, who really cares? Because, you know, you can connect more 9 volts to it, so there's no 9-volt connectors to it. I thought I had some in here. Just wanted to put some in here. Wow, it was just like 5 seconds ago. Here now. We'll do this one. I've been grabbing this. There we go. I'm done trying to fold this up. Let's write that in. There we go. So there we go. What I want to do, and I'm probably going to do, is I'm going to get my glue gun, my hot glue gun, and glue these wires here so that they don't start moving around, because if they move around, chances are they're going to break at the connector. So I'm going to lock that down, but not right now. I'm going to 9-volt connector this thing, and to do that I need one more thing, I think. What was I using last time? Well, it's been a while since I've done this. It's kind of sad, roughly. I should make a little kit. I should make a little kit to help me do this. But if I remember correctly, this is what I used. Kniffy. And then like that. There we go. The other side. There we go. There we go. Ho, 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 ho. And pull that out like that. No breakage. Zombified wire. Bye-bye. Make sure that, again, a very small pair of bent needle nose to make sure those little hookies are straight up and down, and get some of that zombified rubber off of there, because there's zombified rubber on this one. Yeah, it's like, no, those are not mouse droppings. That's zombified wire. Oh, they go. Oh, they go. Oh, Bart. Oh. Find it somewhere. I think it was in the Kevin or the Ken Graham show, whatever that guy, the British guy, where Kelsey Grammer was talking about how he got the voice to Sideshow Bob. And he goes into a wonderful story about some really old-timey actor. Oh, Kelsey. Oh, Kelsey. And he said, oh, I'm going to put that voice away in my head and I'm going to use him someday. And he did. Sideshow Bob was brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. Oh, Bert. I love my life. I really do. A lot of people, Dave, why do I go off on all these tangents? Are you kidding? My life without tangents? I could not even imagine how boring my life would be without tangents. And just knowing the stuff that I know and not knowing the stuff I don't know, that bothers me sometimes. But overall, I'll say this. My life literally has never been boring. At no point has my life ever been boring. And I really do appreciate it about my life. And again, the blessings that I have in my life with all the people I know, and even you people watching this. And I don't have to know you, and you don't have to know me unless you want to say hi and whatever. But I am not here for likes and subscribes. I'm here because I want to do what I want to do and say what I want to say and see what happens. So here we go with the 9-volt connector, and then we push down there, and so it clicks, and then that is hopefully it. There we go, and then you can see all done like that. Now, I am going to use this. I'm going to turn that off because I don't want to burn myself. Because knowing me, I would burn myself. Look at all the Velcro I have. And this stuff is heavy duty Velcro. It's like, oh, you have to work to get it off. It's not the easy twist off Velcro. So everything has a story. So this Velcro strip, this long, I think it might have been longer. It didn't come off a spool. If you feel like Googling, you don't have to. HP all-in-one G1 800 desktops. So as I don't know if it was their first model of HP where they put the hard drive and the screen and the everything in the one monitor stand. So it was all built in the CD-ROM or the DVD and whatever, built into the screen. And they weighed a ton. They were so freaking heavy. But I enjoyed them because I'm not worried about monitor cables. I mean, there was the keyboard and mouse was also Bluetooth. But they sucked, so they were replaced with wired anyway. But you only need to have the power cord and the mouse and keyboard if they were not wireless. You could connect a second monitor to them. That has a monitor port in the bottom to go to a second screen. But the G1 800s, all-in-one, what do they call it? X2s? Doesn't matter. When they shipped in the box, the monitor stand or the desktop stand, because it had to hold the desktop and the monitor because it's one unit, had to be the spring had to be so strong to hold it up because it was heavy. They were heavy. I got one upstairs. It still works. They came with Windows 8.1. Now we upgraded them to Windows. No, that's ours upstairs is still 8.1. That's how long ago these things are. That in order to compress them and put them in a box to keep the box small, they wrapped Velcro around the stand and the back of the back of the stand, the base and the back of the stand, to keep them compressed in the box. And I rolled out 100 of them, and so I have like 100 of these pieces of Velcro. No, I didn't keep them all, but they've been coming in handy. So everything has a story. So let me get this thing all set up. I will say that the all-in-ones, the first batch of all-in-ones I think were compact back then. They sucked. They really did. And the desktop minis also suck, by the way. I'm not a big fan of desktop minis. Although desktop minis usually came with like 8 USB ports for whatever reason back in the day. But I just thought, let's just do this first to make it work. Yeah, that works. So I'll touch it here, and I'll touch that. So one side works, other side doesn't work. So that's one. Then we go over here. Not there, and okay. I don't want to hear some beeping. I want to hear all beeping. There we go. What I usually do in this case is I touch the inside. Are you finished? This thing's not having fun. There we go. It's just, the rails are a little bit, not corroded, but okay. So now I have one train track that is got a 9-volt connector on it. It's longer than the old train connectors, and it's permanently soldered. As I said, what I plan on doing is reinforcing the wire by just putting some hot glue in these little things to hold the wire so they don't pull off. But that's a story for another day. I'm just gonna wrap this thing up like this. And I'm gonna put it in my bin of parts for the next show. Let's put it there. Ta-da, done. Problem solved. That was a problem at the last show. This will work better unless the wire breaks. So that's always the stuff going on. It is what it is. And again, what you saw there is, again, me putting a 9-volt connector on a wire, by the way. Again, battery powered bricks, look them up. If you have old 9-volt wires and they've degraded, just like I would call them the zombified wiring, and you want to rebuild them, I just did it. Took me seconds, well, a minute, whatever. It's very easy to do. You don't need a lot of skill to do it. He's got a wonderful walkthrough for it. And this is the wire you're gonna get. I got this spool here. I think I had a bigger spool, but I think that thing's gone. Yeah, I don't see it anymore. But Amazon, and it's 24 AWG, 24 gauge. 24 gauge, bntechgo.com, but I got it on Amazon. Black. When I got my wires, it was a 6-strand wire. 5 of them were black, and one of them had the stripe on the end, one had the stripe on it. And it's the temperature rating, oh, that's not what I'm looking for. High efficiency, super flexible silicone wire. And it's basically the identical thickness and feeling of the original 9-volt wire out of the box from the RCXs and everything else before it degraded into zombified wire. This stuff will not zombify ever. So when you create your 9-volt wires using this stuff, it'll last you. I've been running it. Basically, the layout itself has been running on my own self-created wire, 9-volt wire. And then I got lots of it here, so it's just always nice to have. I bought a big 50-foot spool. This was my first test, and this was, I don't think it tells me how many feet this was, half the size. And the only thing that's left on this one now is the white and black, because I took off. So this is the 4-strand still, because I took the other strand off. So this is 1, 2, 3, 3 black, and then the end one. This was a 6-strand, so I already peeled off the 2 together for that. For the other things, I think, I mean, if you are interested in 9-volt and you want to resurrect your wiring, there's no other better way of doing it than this. And you saw it's not complicated to make your own wire with the ends on it. Just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of finesse, and you start really getting into it. I've done dozens and dozens so far for myself and some for friends. It helps to have a multimeter to test them to make sure that they're not cross-connected or they're not connected at all. When you clamp the ends together when you put these things on. But that's the only part that you know, requires testing, and then if it doesn't work, you have to do it again, which is fine. I've never had a problem with it. I use a jackknife, and I'll show you again, just in case you guys, anybody out there is wondering. Again, battery powered bricks is much better at this than I am. But you get, so I cut off all the wire, threw out all the wire. But you get a jackknife, and you fit it. You'll see that little tab in the middle. Excuse me, there's a little tab in the middle here, right there. And you fit it so, and you push, basically, I'll show you, it's like that. You push it in there, like that. Can you see? So it's like the conniffies between the outer shell and the bottom shell, the bottom part. And then you kind of, you don't do it too hard, but you get it so the clippy comes down. And so the clippy in this hole is no longer clipped in, and you can see the bottom's kind of pulled away. And you do the same thing for the other side. And then both clippies are not clipped anymore. And then you push down to pull the whole thing out. Watch me not be able to do it now. Live on TV. And then, so you have this piece, and then you have this piece inside with the wire. You take the wire off, and again, it comes apart because it's zombified. And then, so you have this piece with no electrical contacts on it, and you have this piece with all the electrical contacts on it. And then what I do with these bent needle nose is, because the clippies, the cutter pieces off the steel that cut into the wire, when you pull them apart, sometimes they bend a little bit. So you want them to stick straight up and down. And this also allows you to take off any kind of rubber compound that might have stayed. So there's little tiny teeth here, basically points, and the wire gets forced into them, and it cuts through the rubber insulation and gets right down to the wire inside. And that's what that does. And then what I do is I'll just grab a piece here, just because I can. I got a small piece here. I lay the wire across the little channel. See the little channel in the middle? I lay the wire across that, just like that, right down the middle. And I put it down in here. And then I get something that's a tiny screwdriver like that, or whatever. And because there's a hole in the middle of that plastic piece, and I push down. So now the piece is in there. You can see that the wire's in there, push down. And then I put it on top of this guy, with the wire sticking out, right? So the wire, so we can put it sandwich together. And I push the whole thing in straight in. Now here's me pushing. So you can see, pushing straight in. And then to end it, because I don't have the strength of my fingers, as I push down on and there you go. And there you go. So now it looks like it did originally. So, and at this point you can test it, because there's nothing on this end, but you can still see the wiring there. The wire's right in the middle. So what I do is I turn this thing back to test. I grab, and I want to hold onto the wire. So I hold the wire like that, and I put this thing on the metal contact here inside the thing, and then I grab the red piece and I go into the wire here. So that's one wire. And I go to the other side. I should do the other wire. That's it. So I do that before I put the other end on, so I know that this end's working. So I know that this end's working, and then I put the other end on and I test the whole wire together. And if it doesn't beep both times properly, then I know that this end was not put on properly, and I take it apart and I do it again. That's it. How long did that take me? Nothing. So you ordered a wire from Amazon, 24 gauge, high temperature, high efficiency, super flexible silicone wire. I did grab the 6 strand. because I did want to have longer runs with the wires together, but at the ends I put 4 ends on, or 2 ends on, because that made my life easier for the layout, because again, you have sensor and power going to the same spot on both ends, from the RCX to the ends, so where the sensor and the power goes. I just found it easier to run both sets of wires and have like all 4 wires together on that strand, so it looked just like this, right? So look, 4 wires, and then I had these 2 going to one end and these 2 wires going to the other end, and then the 4 wires. So it just made my life easier. That's why I kept them together. Does it look good? I hide the wires as much as possible, so it doesn't matter. But I do like being lazy. I do like things being easy for me. And this is very easy, and it's fun to say that. I think it's fun. And again, Lego, in one way, really outdid themselves with these ends, these 9-volt. Again, I understand why they discontinued the 9-volt line, because who uses 9-volt anymore? Everything's Bluetooth and 5 volts and blah blah blahs. The 9-volt system was so fantastic back in the day. It was so fantastic back in the day. Even running wires, quote unquote wires, fake wires, through the electrified plates, the 2x4, the 2x8, and the 1x2 electric plates. Brilliant, the way they had that, so you can't short it out. It was absolutely. I used to have a bag right here, and I think I put a bag over there. And then these connectors with the RCX and the other ones that had this kind of connector with the wire. And then the Mindstorm's touch sensor and rotation sensor and the temperature sensor and the other sensors that they came out with. Just wonderful. And the motors, I got my favorite motor is the 9-volt motor that came in the RCX, the little board cube motor thing, the little square thing, the cube thing. It is wonderful. All of it's wonderful, and I'm still using it to this day. I'm one of the few that are still using it to this day. But I find I had an NXT. I worked on programming with the NXT. I loved the NXT with the screen where you could actually. I made a video game on the NXT, a few of them. I own an EV3. I've never actually programmed it-ish. The downloading is a lot easier because, again, IR on the RCX is deplorably bad with everything else. But other than that, that is the deficiency of the RCX, is the IR communication, not the Bluetooth and all that stuff. But that's the only shortcoming that the RCX has. And like limited memory space, don't care. I used to have huge programs in my RCX that did everything for the robot competitions that did exactly just fine. Now the NXT superior, EV3 superior than that. The latest stuff, whatever, I don't even remember what they're doing now. Doesn't matter to me because I'm stuck in the RCX days. And I absolutely love it. I'm gonna put all these things back over here. I'm gonna make sure that the soldering iron's unplugged for the night. There we go. I might make more wires tomorrow, but that's not my focus right now. My focus right now is to, what was I doing? Okay, I did the train track. All right, I was gonna sort some yellow. So, I don't even know what time it is right now. Turn that off. You waste my battery. You can go back over here, you waste the time. And now I have, oh, that's what I use for this thing. I try so hard most days to make sure that my wiring stays solid and good and not mixed up. I spend a lot of time at work running cables inside racks so that they're clean and pretty and neat, because I hate messy racks and networking, because it's hard to diagnose if it's a mess. So I spend a lot of time, and probably an inordinate amount of time, making sure that the wiring is as clean as it possibly can be. And so I do take my time sometimes, and much to the chagrin of others, to make sure that things are good and pretty. Because again, things that people never see in the back of racks. I'm not saying all my rack work has been good. Sometimes it is like, I got to get this done and get out. So, sometimes it doesn't work out that I can make it pretty due to the very nature of having network cables coming in from the top and to the bottom of the rack. It just drives me nuts. Shows no forethought. I'll use this as an example, and it's kind of related. It's like everything else. Like, you have a furnace room. Most houses have a furnace room, and they have a furnace in the furnace room. And no, not too many people care how immaculate the furnace room is. Some people do have a beautiful furnace room, but some people don't. It's like the breaker panel too. How's the wires coming into the breaker panel? Are they organized, or is it just a massive spaghetti factory? So I have a friend. He had a contractor come in to do the furnace and to replace the furnace and the ductwork. And the contractor, very, very reasonably priced and very, very thorough in what he knows and doing the job. And he put it in, and when you're looking at it, there's like a half an inch difference variance between the one side of the ductwork and the other side. And it's basically, it's uneven. But again, it's ductwork. So who really cares if it's uneven? But you walk down there to do the laundry, and there it is, and you can see it. I noticed it, and he noticed it. But is it worth to? Because it's not a mechanical thing. It's not going to make the furnace run any better or worse having it half inch like off askew, shall we say, askew. But it just looks not good. Like if you're down to like 1/8 of an inch, nobody's going to notice it. But it's a half an inch out. But it doesn't leak air. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, but it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And so when I go into a rack, a network rack, and I see the switches. Now, I'm not raking wires. People comb wires. That's just, I couldn't care. There's not enough money in the world to pay me to comb the wires coming into the rack, unless you have one of those fancy dancy, server rooms with or network rooms with all the wires. I have no problem. The wires bundled up with Velcro around it. Maybe you have like 192 patches, and you break them up into bundles of wire, because if you use zip ties, there will be a time when somebody's tracing wires that goes from the patch panel into that morass of wires, that you want to be able to trace that one wire. And if it's in the middle of this big huge piece of spaghetti, this bundle of spaghetti, and they're zip tied, you have to cut the zip ties. And again, with cutting the zip ties, there is the chance, no matter how careful you are, that you're going to nick a wire instead of when you're trying to break the zip ties, especially if you have them around the corner, around the bend, and you're reaching in. Velcro is cheap. Get Velcro. It's just like every time I see zip tying a bundle of wires in a network rack, I immediately cut it and I find Velcro and replace it with Velcro, because I know I'm going to be back in that rack at some point to trace the wire. That's just me. There are places for zip ties. Bundling cables together so you can't pull one out is not the place for a zip tie. I just for the Lord. Zip ties for fiber wire. Are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? Zip ties for fiber wire? Like, no, not ever. It's like, no. And again, the Velcro doesn't ever have to move again. It doesn't, but let's go off the rant. I try to make my stuff look neat. And so when I go into a rack that's neat, I feel more comfortable that when something goes wrong. I also mentioned this, when you're designing a rack or putting a rack together, have a workflow, a physical workflow from input to output. So input here, and then the next stage is here, and the next stage is up there, and then over here. No, that's wires jumping all over the place. ISP to router to firewall to switches. I've seen ISP over here, router over there in the back of the rack, the firewall over here at the top of the rack, and then the switches are way over there at the bottom of the rack. I'm going, or the patch panels. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you have wires just crisscrossing. It looks like one of those 1970s what they thought an idea of the inside of a computer mainframe would look like when you open up the kit and you see all the wires coming down, a strew everywhere. No, not ever, not literally ever, because when something goes wrong, and invariably something always goes wrong, and you're there at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to trace wires, I looked at that rack and said, I'm going home. Like, I didn't build this rack. It's not my rack. I don't even touch that rack. I'm out of here. See, bye. You guys can take care of it. Bing, bang, bing, wire to the desktop. Done. I can go right from the desktop to the ISP just by looking at it. Just by looking at it. Piece of cake. Anyway, that's just my little 10 cents about networking after all these years. And the kids come in these days and they don't get it. They honestly don't get it. Because they don't do it. And again, I will say, again, my experience. My time inside network racks has diminished over the years. Straight up. Back in the day, 20 plus years ago, network racks, I was there all the time, diagnosing physical wiring, hardware issues, port status, blah, blah. That's drastically reduced in effort to be in network racks. The issue is that when things do go wrong, and they've always gone wrong, you're back in a network rack, and you have to be able to figure it out really, really quickly. And if the wires are going everywhere, that takes time. And then people are running around chickens with the head cuts off. Going, oh, no, we're down. Payroll's not going to happen. Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. I still have to take the time to figure out this rack now. So I've been on both sides. I have seen people do racks a lot neater than I do. And I'm going, ooh, I see that. But again, I was out in, I was decommissioning a location last week. And it wasn't even a rack. It was a glorified breaker panel that you come across. It looks like a breaker panel, like the sheet of steel with the door on it, with the little clippies on it so you can lock it up. But he opens it up. I thought it was going to be a breaker panel inside, and it wasn't a breaker panel. It was about 3 times as wide as a breaker panel covering. And then it was about 10 inches deep. And there was a switch mounted vertically, bolted to the wall. And the wires are coming out the top of this 48 port switch. And they came out the top, all a mess, and they went to the bottom of the enclosure, and it was just a big pile of cords and cords and cords and cords and cords, all just jumbled up there, 48 of them. And then I going, my anxiety just spiked, just spiked, because I was tracing wires to figure out what was ours and what wasn't ours. And the way to do that is I went from the ISP that we pay for to the router that we paid for, and then it went into this FiberLink that went over to this patch panel, which it was not even a patch. Well, it wasn't a patch panel. It was just, it went to the switch, and the switch went to 48 wires inside this rack, and then through the, it's not a rack again, it was like mounted vertically into the down below the floor, and I don't know where it went from there. Like, it was just like, I can't handle this. I found everything I needed to find, but it's like, I did not want to sift through all that wire that was piled in the bottom of that little enclosure. It's like, oh, and I just, poof, my anxiety went straight up the second he opened the door. And I'm going, like, you couldn't even see the switch through the wires. You had to like move all the wires aside. Oh, there's the switch. It's a 48 port switch. I'm going, how do you lose a 48 port switch in a cabinet that's like 10 inches deep, 2.5 feet wide, and 4 feet tall? How do you not find a switch in that when you have to start like Livingston, going through the Dr. Livingston, I presume you're going through the jungles of whatever, and you're parting the wires. Oh, there's a switch in the back, bolted to the back wall, and then all the wires are coming out the top, and the wires are going here, and the wires are going there, and the wires are going everywhere. And you go, what is this? And I get the ad hoc-ness of a lot of infrastructures, especially older buildings from the 80s and 90s, where none of this was at all thought of at the time, and you just kept on adding and adding and adding to it. Fully understood. But at the time of addition, at the time of adding a switch, at the time of running wires to jacks at people's cubicles and the floor where the APs are, at that time would have been a perfect time to clean up that rack. because that happens evolution. I've done it to spend an extra half hour in that rack, but now it's going to be days. When I'm looking at that rack, I said, if I'm fixing this rack, it will be days now, instead of back then when you're adding to it. It's just something I've noticed, and most people will never, literally ever care. The bosses don't care. They don't see inside the rack. The bosses aren't chasing wires at 3 o'clock in the morning. The bosses aren't getting frantic phone calls from the night staff saying, "Oh, our network's down and the trucks are waiting to get to load, and we can't send the job to the printer because it's offline," right? And it's like, yes, you're supposed to have redundancy. You're supposed to have at least 2 ways of doing things, and that's why we like 2 printers in the building. So if you can't get the one, you'll print the other one. That's why we have having at least 2 desktops in various offices, especially when the critical jobs like dispatch and shipping. They have 2 redundancy there. But in this case, 1. And if it goes down, you're printing on the main printer in the office, which is on the other side of the warehouse. So you're walking back and forth. I think about this stuff. I think about the logistics of what happens if that goes down, right? My boss, back when we were with our previous company, made sure we had redundant switches in every single rack. Redundant switches, like one switch that is completely there and on, but nothing connected to it, just in case the primary dies. And again, I mentioned before, it saved my bacon when the place got hit by lightning, and then knocked out 4 of the live switches. I just moved everything to the other switch, and they're back up and running. The end. That what would have taken at this location I was at last week a week to fix, it took me 4 hours, and I was mostly walking because the place is a huge piece of property. Fantastic. I can't keep on, and yet they don't want to put the money into that, but they never think about the downtime if they don't put the money into that. You know, it's hard to justify when things are good. It's easy to justify when things go off the rails. My thing for 35 years is I wonder what off the rails looks like and how to account for that and plan for that and be ready for that. And it always costs money that they don't want to spend. But in the end, when you get hit by lightning, glad you spent it. So, in the end, cost of doing business, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I got this, and I don't think I'm going to do anything else with that. I'm going to put these tracks back and clean up the room, and I'm going to go to bed. Wow, that was an hour. That I was not expecting that. I didn't expect it to go to an hour on this one. Sorry for wasting your time. I am going to bed. So you guys all stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.